What is up, guys? Coop here, and today we're gonna do another D&D build. I didn't expect my D&D builds to be as popular as they have been, and it's really nice to see that a lot of you guys are enjoying them. So I figured today that we would actually dive into making a cleric here. So this cleric is a little bit different. It's not exactly like a mid-max, like I will do all the damage type of build. This is actually more of like a support-based character. You're going to have a lot of heals, a lot of buffs, you're going to have animal companions, and you're also going to do a decent amount of damage as well. So when I was designing this, I really wanted to get into more of the roleplay aspect, but at the same time make it to where you have tools in your toolkit to really help out and be a really good part of the team. And as time goes on, you will eventually level up and kind of figure out what sort of path you're going with. For this one, in this case, we just stuck to being only up to level 3, as most characters will start off at level 3. But this is a nice little one to kind of write down if you just want to get into D&D and you want like a sort of a character that kind of fits the idea of being a survivalist cleric who's got like a pet and can fight right in the combat and also buffs up their friends and does a variety of different things. So let's dive in. So using the point system and the race and everything else, the race that I actually ended up picking was a lizard folk. I chose a lizard folk because obviously the constitution will be very nice. You're actually going to be in the front lines. I wanted to make a character that was sort of not just the druid guy in the back, the wannabe druid. I wanted him to actually be up in the fray, actually fighting and actually being able to survive. So having all that extra constitution was very nice. Next, obviously, the wisdom, because, you know, you're a survivalist, you live out in nature, you need sort of those things to sort of make the class work. Also, wisdom is sort of your spell, modifier and everything. So you really want to do that. Also, one of the things that I really enjoyed was bite. Bite is a really strong ability that does 1d6 plus your strength. And using the point system, I put a 16 into strength, so you're dealing about 1d6 plus strength, which is as good as some of the maces and things that you can get. So as you can see here, this mace that we got is a 1d6. You're already doing more damage with just your bite. So if they're in melee combat, just bite at them, and boom, you know, you can do some massive amounts of damage. Next, I kind of like this little cunning artisan thing. It was a nice little thing that, you know, you get to create like shields, clubs, javelins, darts, a variety of different things. And I always thought like maybe you can like coat like some of the darts, like the blow darts, and like attack from afar to find your animal companion. Because, you know, eventually you will find an animal companion. That's kind of one of the main features of this class. So you're going to obviously have to figure out ways to get those animals. And I think having those blow dart needles and sort of 1d4 darts you can use as like sleeping darts or something with like a poisoner kit. There's a variety of different things that you can do as well. Basically, you can create things like a blade, like a dagger, or the appropriate artisan tools, such as leatherworking tools. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then hold breath, which gives you another way of dealing with water. So, or dealing with like say like a intense like smog or something, or poison gas. You know, getting more into that whole survival aspect. Next, you got to gain 2 in the following skills of your choice. Obviously, I think I chose animal handling and nature, I believe. Yeah, so I actually kind of screwed up there. There we go. That's what I meant to do. But basically, I ended up choosing animal handling and nature. And then for my actual class-specific stuff, I chose medicine, perception, stealth, and survival. And the reason I did that is it really just kind of fits all together really well. So that's basically sort of the things I chose here. I chose animal handling, medicine, nature, perception, stealth, survival. And the reason that you do that is specifically it gives you 1 animal handling skill, which we will be using a hell of a lot of because we'll be getting animal companion. So basically it allows you to have a pet on the side, so that way you're doing a good amount of damage and still not a completely useless character, but also having the utility to use your utility-based spells while your animal does the damage for you. Medicine, obviously, to heal, in addition to your already healing spells. Nature, because, you know, you're one with nature. Perception, because you're an alert, you're, you know, used to being out in the wild. Stealth, just because I feel like stealth was still a very good stat to have, especially as a heavier character. I think it would be really nice, and then you can, you know, sneak around and like grow vines and all types of stuff. And survival is obviously kind of a given, especially when dealing with like nature and things. So highly recommend doing that. So And then also, whenever you're not wearing armor, you get tough skin, which we don't have really any dex whatsoever. We have 0 dex pretty much, but it's still nice to have like some sort of armor. Can be instead of being completely pretty much naked when you're out and about. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is when you first choose the cleric path, you get to choose a domain. So with choosing the domain of life, you actually gain a proficiency in heavy armor. See, the heavy armor that you will be starting off with will be chainmail. Chainmail, it comes with the starter kit of cleric, and it gives you 16 AC and requires 13 strength, which is why we had to make sure that we had a little bit of strength, and why I decided to make this into a melee character. Now you might be wondering, oh wow, that AC seems a little high, 18, that's kind of a little whoa. But you just got to keep in mind that we also have, if I could find it, shield. So the thing that you guys got to keep in mind is when you have the shield out, it's 18 AC. When you don't have the shield out, it's 16. So that's a good way of keeping kind of track. So like if it's out, 18. If it's not, there. So just keep that in mind. A lot of people forget about that. Or if you're attacked from the back while your shield is not drawn, you still do have 18, assuming that you put your shield on your back and not like on your front, which I don't know why people would do that. But hey, it's D&D, you can roleplay it how you will. Next you get a Divine Domain spell, which we'll check in the spells in a hot bit. And your class wealth, you actually start off with a decent amount of gold compared to most, and then I chose the Explorer pack because obviously you got torches, you've got a mess kit, you've got a bedroll, you've got rope. I mean, all those things are really useful, especially when going forward. You've even got water, you've got rations, torches, you know. I think having the access to creating fire, tying things up, and surviving, and being able to carry stuff is very important, especially when going forward. So, I don't know how many D&D people are actually kind of, have DMs that are very picky about the amount of stuff that you have, but I always like having the Explorer pack because if they are a little picky and they do keep track of rations, that's a very important one to keep in mind. So, without further ado, let's actually talk about some of the pluses and minuses of this class. So the great thing is that this is a great supporter class. You've got your heals, you've got your barriers, you've got your charms, and you can damage from you and your animal. And later on you'll be getting spiritual weapon, which will allow you to attack from afar as well. So you've got a variety of different access to doing things. So no matter where you are in the battlefield, you can manipulate and sort of plan out your moves to where you can assign damage in the areas you need it to be. So if someone's really far away, you can use spiritual weapon. You have two people that are kind of getting, attacking from both sides. You can have your animal go right, you go left, or you can attack on the same side, giving a really strong hold on one side of the battlefield. So that is very good to have. Having barriers, charms, heals, that's good for healing up your pets and keeping them alive and having them get stronger over time and not just die. You don't want like your little eagle friend just to die like bam, like dead. You actually kind of want these pets to survive, and maybe they get a little bit stronger over time depending on your DM's choice. That's definitely something to keep in mind, especially with this character. Talk to your DM about animal companions, because animal companions usually are a little bit weaker. But if you talk to your DM about like, hey, maybe adding a leveling system or adding things to make them stronger every single time, maybe adding one attribute every single level, just talk to your DM about that, because that's something to really keep in mind, because there is a lot of DM discretion around there. Now, animal's best friend. This allows you to get a variety of animal companions and spells to support it, which, as I was telling you before, and nature is never a problem. Now, one of the things that's really important is we don't even have like a maxed out wisdom. We only have a 16. So even if we increased our wisdom even more in the future, just imagine how crazy that would be. So we already have a +5 in animal handling. You barely have to roll anything. If you roll anything above a 10, you're probably going to make the check. If you roll like a natural 20 plus the 25, that pet freaking loves you afterwards. And that's one of the things I wanted to keep in mind, especially when going forward, is I don't want nature to ever be a problem. Water, holding your breath, surviving poison gas, surviving things. You have medical and survival and animal handling. So anything beast related, medical related, and nature related, you have it down. So that's something to really keep in mind. so those checks will never be a problem. Now, one of the things that we do have to talk about is they're an average melee fighter. They do very weak damage late game. They're very much a supporter playstyle, so you're not going to be doing crazy amounts of damage. You're not going to see them just, earthquake and throw things and all that. Eventually later on you can pick and make yourself a little bit more offensive over time, but the way that I built them was to be very much a support based character to allow you and your pet to kind of work together as a team along with your friends. And just one of the things that is important to keep in mind is that you're just an average melee based fighter, which isn't a bad thing, but it is something that I wanted to kind of say when I did this. Now, there's no big thing about the class. There's no massive big spell at the moment. You will get eventually some better spells over time, but most of the spells do help others do well. So if you're the type of guy that wants to be the flashy character that does all these cool things that, like, you're the guy that does the damage, it's not really the class for you. But the support based class is awesome because you can empower your friends to do some crazy things, and you can keep yourself alive because of all your health and your armor. So that's something to really keep in mind. With the starter kit, I just chose a mace and a shield and a spear. I just kind of liked it because you have a throwing weapon, you have a melee weapon, you have more armor, and you have your heavy armor. So really important to keep that in mind. We have a nice little proficiency bonus. I believe our proficiency bonus should be actually up to 3 at this part. I'll have to check the book, but you're basically just doing it in accordance to how you think it would go. We also have a really nice passive perception, which is awesome because it allows us to really notice anything out there. And then if we go down here, we'll actually get into the cantrips. Now keep in mind, some of these cantrips you do pick up along the way. I believe you get 3 in the beginning, and then eventually you get a 4th one. So I try to illustrate it by, like, level 1 you'll have this, level 2 you have this, level 3 you'll have this, by our level 1 and 2 thing. So keep that in mind when looking at this. So the first one that we did is Guidance. Guidance is a super good ability that really helps you out with that support roll. You touch a willing creature, and once the spell ends, you roll a d4, and they get to add that to a sort of ability check of their choice. And if you can roll the die before or after the ability check. So basically it's a nice little way of kind of helping out somebody. So say, like, for example, you're doing a stealth check and he rolls and he gets a 14 and it's just not enough. You can use Guidance, boom, roll, add 3 to that, okay, boom, he's up to 17. He makes the check. So that's something really important to keep in mind. Now next we have our life domain cantrip of resistance. You can touch a willing creature once before the spell ends. The target can add 1d4 and add the number rolled to a 1 saving throw of its choice. So if somebody's about to get hit by a massive spell, you can use your cantrip of resistance to really help you out with basically not being able to take it. Now the next is obviously Spare the Dying, which is another awesome one to pick, especially if you're a cleric. It just makes sense. If a creature has 0 hit points, you can use it, boom, to make them stable so that they don't just die instantly. Has no effect on undead and constructs, though. So warforged and undead based characters will not get anything. Next we have Fermatragy. I probably am butchering that word, but it's an iconic spell. Basically it allows you to do a lot of RP stuff. You can make your voice boom, you can make flames to flicker, brighten, or change color. You can harm less tremors in the ground for 1 minute. You can make a giant sound. You can make your appearance, change the appearance of your eyes. I chose this ability because I thought maybe you could frighten creatures, or use this to your advantage roleplay wise, and then also use it to your advantage to maybe help you get animal companions a little bit easier. It's just kind of like a roleplay thing. It's not anything that could change the aspect of the game, but it has so many different options, such as like making your voice louder, changing how flames look, just all these different things that I thought it was so interesting to actually do. And I thought, like, doing like thing like a cry of a raven, stuff like that. I thought that was pretty interesting going forward. So now let's get into level 1, where we talk about sort of I would say the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the actual build. This is where we actually get to see what sort of things is this character going to be using on a daily. So first one is Animal Friendship. Animal Friendship technically counts as a spell, but not really. I found this one interesting because some DMs count it as like an actual level 1 spell. Some DMs just count it as a feature. I prefer the ones that keep it as a feature, but obviously talk to your DM and kind of read the book a little bit more on that. I prefer to use it as like a feature though, like, hey, these guys are trained into doing it. But basically, this spell allows you to convince an animal that you mean no harm. You may choose an animal that you see within range. It must see and hear you. So keep that in mind, must see and hear you. If the beast's intelligence is 4 or higher, the spell fails. Otherwise, the beast must succeed a wisdom throw or be charmed by you for the spell's duration. If you or your companion harms the target, the spell ends. So this is basically a way to just calm a creature down and everything. Now, one of the things I don't like is the whole intelligence of 4 or higher. I feel like maybe 5 would have been more generous, but what you guys got to keep in mind is when you do charm a creature like that and you show them that you mean no harm, this is an opportune time to use your stuff like your animal handling skill here. So using your animal handling skill is very important because what it allows you to do is it basically will calm the creature, and then you can use your animal handling skill to try to make that creature yours. So you can use that animal friendship and bring them in and then have them be sort of your friend, or try to develop a thing with them. It depends up to the DM. There's a lot of DM discretion when it comes to this, as it doesn't flat out say it, but the animal friendship thing with that combined, you could really do a lot of good stuff with that. So that's something really important to keep in mind there when you're going forward. Now the next thing that we have here is command. This spell basically allows you to just basically say a word. They do a, I believe, wisdom. Let's see, creature must do a wisdom saving throw. Yep. So they have to do a wisdom saving throw, which, you know, obviously we use wisdom, so should be a good amount there. And then they have to use their own wisdom. But what you can do is you can do things like drop, flee, grovel, halt, all these different commands to basically tell the creature to do what you want. And I thought this was kind of interesting because, like, obviously you're really good with animals, but you have commands too. So it just kind of really fit the theme of the character, but also it's really nice to be like, yo, drop your weapon. And, you know, they drop their weapon, they're open for a good while. Or you can do things like flee. So they must, you know, turn around and run as fast as they can. So I thought that was really interesting as well. And then eventually later levels you can add additional, like, one creature, stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Next, obviously, we've got Cure Wounds. The Cure Wounds allows you to basically add 1d8 plus your spellcasting modifier to heal a creature. So I did this because 1d8 is a good amount of healing, and then on top of it, we already have a +3, so we're pretty much always healing for 3 on that. Now, one of the things that is also really cool is by doing this, we can, you know, heal our creature too, so that way our creature can survive long enough. Like I said, really talk to your DM about having a leveling up rule for your creatures that you pick up along the way, as I really think it adds a little bit more flavor and fun to the class. But allowing Cure Wounds allows you to have that healing and support role that I was talking about that really makes it well when you're going into a fight and doing everything. Next is Shield of Faith. Basically, this allows you to add +2 AC to a creature you see in range. Now, I believe you can also use it on yourself. Don't quote me on that. That's one of those rules that I have to check on. However, I can suggest that you could put it on either your creature. So imagine, for example, you know, you can do command, tell them to drop it, and then you can use Shield of Faith to just like add a shield to your creature, making him a little stronger. There's a variety of different cool things you could do with that combo. Now keep in mind this is a level 1 base spell, so it will take up one of your spell slots, but it is a nice one to do, especially when going to combat, because 2 AC can matter a good amount. But anyways, that's a really good one to use, especially getting into that support role. Next is just speaking to animals. Speaking to animals is obviously kind of makes sense, you know, so being able to speak to animals, being able to calm down the animals, and being able to handle the animals. So you basically have all 3 of the aspects to really make animals your best friend, whether that be from, you know, charisma or anything. Now obviously it looks like you're not going to be able to really do a lot of charisma checks, but you got to keep in mind their intelligence is a lot lower on creatures, so that's something you really got to keep in mind when you're doing that. Next, we actually get into level 2 where we get to our channel Divinity, which is our class feature. So this doesn't really count as sort of a spell. It just counts as like something that we can do once per encounter before we have to rest. And that one is Charm Nature. Each plant and beast that you see within 30 feet must make a wisdom saving throw. If the creature fails the saving throw, it is charmed for 1 minute until it takes damage. While charmed, it is friendly to you and other creatures you designate. So, there's also another one that basically allows you to sort of hold them tight and like wrap them in a vines and everything. So that's another one to keep in mind. I chose this one though because it basically what it does, it allows you to basically, if there's anything plants or beast related, so such as like a bunch of dogs or there's a lot of different beasts in D&D. A lot of people don't really think about that, but if you think about, if you're not in like like even when you go into like a bandit cove or something like that, there's typically like wolves or bears or something that you'll see. And one of the things that you can do is you can do this charm ability to stop a herd of dogs, and then you can use your animal handling skill and you're talking to them as well to allow yourself to really get them on your side and work with you and attacking, say like their own people, like the bandits or something. It's just like a quick little way of like looking at things. There's a variety of different ways you could use that, but I thought that channel Divinity of Charm Nature was very interesting because you could do a lot more with it. As for plants and everything, I don't know exactly what you could do there, but maybe bust out that good old tinderbox that you've got there and light up a match and just like drop it on them, and then they'll be caught on fire and you can fight against them for a tiny bit. The varieties of that are kind of endless, so I thought that was pretty funny. So next is you pick up Sanctuary, which is another level 1 skill, which basically allows you to ward a creature against a range attack. Until the spell ends, any creature who is targeted by the ward with an attack of a harmful spell must first make a wisdom saving throw. Then the creature must pick a new target or lose that attack or spell. The spell doesn't protect the warded creature from area of effects though, so like fireball and etc. So this is just a way to block them from a range attack or to make them have to choose something else. So basically it just puts a little barrier above them, just saying, hey, no range spells can hit him. Now at level 3, I had to pick another level 1 spell, and I thought I would do Detect Good or Evil. Basically this is a nice spell because it's like, okay, can I trust this person? Can I not trust this person? Anybody around level 3, if you did start at level 1, around that level 3 you do start to understand the world and the characters a little bit more, and you'll start to have suspicions about characters, and this is a good time to use that to your advantage, especially when you're trying to figure out things. So Detect Good and Evil, I know it's kind of a waste of a level 1 spell slot, but it really gets you a lot of like knowledge about can you trust this person, are they good, it kind of goes hand in hand. Now obviously this is one of the spells I kind of hate the most because DM discretion, they can be like, oh well, magically you just don't know, or they'll just be like, or they'll just give you no details at all. Compared to, it's a level 1 spell that you're using, and they should be allowing you a little bit more details and everything out there. Now next is Healing Word, which is a heal that adds 1d4 plus your spell modifier. At higher levels, it allows you to basically add another additional d4 on there. Now, I don't like this one that much because we have Cure Wounds, which is really good, but Healing Word allows the range aspect. A lot of people forget about that, so Cure Wounds is you have to touch people. Healing Word is the range aspect, and I believe you can like just heal from a good amount of range with this. So that's something to really keep in mind, especially going forward. And I do believe that Healing Word does heal multiple people. Don't quote me on that. Okay, so re-looking at Healing Word, it only actually heals a creature, but it has that range aspect. It's any creature you can see. So keep that in mind when doing that, when you're using Healing Word. It's any creature that you can see. So definitely something to keep in mind there. Now the last spell is Spirit Weapon. Spirit Weapon allows you to create a floating spectral weapon within range that lasts for the duration or until you cast a spell again. When you cast a spell, you can make a melee spell against a creature up to 5 feet of the weapon. So you spawn it, and then you can use it to attack something within 5 feet, which is a pretty good amount. Now on hit, the target takes 1d8 plus your spell modifier. So this is super good because basically you're doing about 1d8 plus 3. So super good a weapon, and on top of it you have your own bite. So you have multiple different options for if someone gets close and dealing a good amount of damage. Now on your bonus action of your turn, you can move the weapon up to 20 feet and repeat the attack against a creature within 5 feet of it. So you can cast it, boom, hit something, and then as a bonus action, have it move and then hit somebody again. So I think that's kind of funny. So you can do a good amount of stuff. The weapon can take your choice of the cleric's DDs are associated with the weapon and make the spell resemble that weapon. So basically, just try to think of something natural or something like that, and then just kind of like build it around that. So just something to do a little bit, and then at higher levels you can increase the damage by 1d8, which that's pretty dang good. Like, it's a pretty solid move. So in general though, this is basically the Animal Man Cleric. It's a cleric that specifically focuses on using animal companions and following into the fight with nature. They're very tanky, they're very supportive, they allow their allies to get a lot of benefits, they allow themselves to have animal companions, and they allow themselves to be able to work around different situations, but always have a tool in the toolkit to always be able to do something. So we have always our melee weapons, our our bites, we have our different crafting things, we have our different sort of tinderboxes, we have our roleplay stuff, we have our buffs, we have our attacks, our shield, everything that we could possibly need. And mind you, this is only at level 3. Eventually later on you'll kind of figure out your diversity, and eventually you'll kind of develop your character along the way. But I do hope you guys do enjoy this build. I wanted to make this as easy as possible, and I hope you guys do enjoy the format. A lot of you guys ask about the spreadsheet. I try to post it on every single comment that tells me, like, where do you get the spreadsheet? It's basically a character sheet D&D at appspot.com. So just kind of look that up, and eventually you'll find this Google Chrome sort of sheet here. So keep that in mind as well. Anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe. So many people watch my stuff, but not enough subscribers, and I have so much good content for you guys. There's a variety of stuff out there. Everything gaming related, you're bound to find something you like, whether it's World of Warcraft, Hearthstone, just looking at different games, anything on Steam sale stuff, D&D related stuff, just personal blogs. There's bound to be something for you guys. Anyways, I thank you guys for watching. Stay baller, my friends. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.